The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
Are you tired of the same old pro wrestling? Then check out the amazing action on Powerslam.tv, the biggest indie pro wrestling channel in the world. Get over 4,000 hours of the best pro wrestling events from over 110 of the biggest names in the industry from over 15 countries around the globe. Get your free trial today at Powerslam.tv.
Ladies and gentlemen, available on all platforms and YouTube. He's the Apex Podcaster. He's the wise owl of professional wrestling. He smells better than Dude Love with Sex Panther on. He's the king of fantasy booking. He is your favorite podcaster's favorite podcast. He is Omega Luke, and you're listening to the Omega Luke Wrestling Podcast.
What's going on, guys? Omega Luke here, bringing you another incredible interview for your eyes and ears to enjoy. I was very lucky enough to be able to speak to one of the men standing in that ring during that NXT UK Takeover last weekend. He isn't a wrestler, however, you will definitely recognise his voice as the ring announcer for NXT UK, Andy Shepherd. So, of course, we talk about that NXT UK takeover that just happened, as well as the brand itself and how Andy got into the business. Before we get into this, make sure you're subscribed, whether you are watching me say these words from my mouth on YouTube or you are listening through your ears on the podcast platforms. Your support means a lot to me, and if you enjoy what I do, I really wouldn't want you to miss an episode. Just like my man, Kiefer Cook. That is right, Keith. I know you had a lot of problems, and if you, like Keith, also listen through Spotify, you may have noticed I haven't uploaded since December 5th or 8th or something like that. Please DM me if you normally use Spotify, and I shall send you the new link. You just have to open the link, and it will update my episodes on Spotify. So, annoying as it is, unfortunately, that is the only way. So, like Keith, don't miss an episode because he has got loads of episodes to catch up on now. But on to my guest today on Omega Luke. It is the one and only Andy Shepherd.
Hi, I'm Bruce Pritchard. This is Conrad Thompson.
And you're listening to the Omega Luke Podcast.
Hey guys, this is going to be very weird for my guest today, as for a change, he is actually the person being introduced to the audience. It is the WWE NXT UK ring announcer, Andy Shepherd. Andy, how are you doing today?
I am very, very well, Luke. Thank you so much for having me on.
No, it is great to have you on. Thank you very much for doing this. And perfect timing, really. We've just had an incredible takeover, so thank you very much for joining me today, right off the back of that said takeover. Which we're going to get to later on, don't worry, but I'm very excited to have you on and sort of put you in the spotlight today instead.
This is going to be interesting.
Yeah, so first of all, Andy, I thought it'd be quite nice for everyone to sort of get to know you a little better. Did you have any other sort of TV jobs before NXT UK, as in like presenting something, or is this always something that you wanted to do before?
Yeah, I mean, I've done quite a bit of TV in the lead up to sort of NXT UK, and that's kind of part of the reason I think why I got brought in by WWE. I mean, so my background, I was doing stuff I actually started off doing stuff for SB TV, which is an online channel. I started off doing their sports stuff a fair few years ago now, and then I was part of a big hunt for a Blue Peter presenter, which was a kind of a CBBC reality show. I did that afterwards. And then I did Red Bull cliff diving on Dave, and then that led on to hosting MMA shows on Dave and Channel 5 and ITV and boxing, working with David Hay and his promotion, doing stuff on Dave. So yeah, I had quite a bit of sort of combat sports experience before coming to WWE, and also as a producer, sort of working behind the camera on certain things.
Yeah, definitely. So were you a wrestling fan as a kid then?
A gargantuan wrestling fan. I mean, honestly, from up until probably late teens, maybe even a little bit longer, being being a wrestler is what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
From the age of probably, I don't know, 10, 11, 12 through until then. Huge fan. Shawn Michaels, I still remember WrestleMania 12, that Iron Man match.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. That's my favourite WrestleMania match.
Yeah, I mean, I was a fan before that, but that was, I don't know why, something about that lit a fire inside me.
Yeah.
And Shawn Michaels from then on was just an idol to me. So yeah, in short, a gargantuan wrestling fan.
That's really good to hear, actually. So it's sort of like quite a good thing for you. Was it like sort of an aspiration, whether, when it got to a point where you realised you weren't going to be a professional wrestler, but you were working in the TV industry, is that something that you thought, I'm going to try my hardest to get somewhere on WWE TV?
I'll be honest with you, no, not really, because when I was doing my TV stuff, or still do my TV stuff, the Bama things, working for WWE wasn't really a thing. They're this big, huge American brand, and I'm obviously based here. So I thought, unless I made the move to the States,
it would never happen.
How'd that really work? You know? And it was only when I actually worked with WWE over here. I was producing a sketch for James Corden's Late Show, and I started talking to a couple of the producers backstage and sort of built up a relationship with them. And I just hosted a boxing match for David Hay, and I had a few things which were kind of WWE-esque, sort of backstage bits and little bits which I thought could kind of relate to WWE. And I thought, do you know what? This is a real long shot, but why not just send my stuff in? So I kind of asked around, found out who the right person to get in touch was, and sent my stuff through it. And that's kind of when the ball started rolling, and I started conversations with people like Michael Cole and Tom Phillips, and this is before the UK stuff happened. It was sort of that summer. And we had some good conversations, and they were saying very nice things. But again, I wasn't really sure, how or well I would fit in. Would I have to go straight to the States to do things or what? Yeah. And then out of the blue, just December 2016, I think it would be, I got a call from Michael Cole telling me about the UK things, and would I be interested in coming in and doing some stuff with him. And of course, I jumped at the chance.
Yes, because that was the very first UK tournament.
The very first one back in Blackpool.
Yeah, it seems so far away now, think about it, because of how far we've come in such a short space of time.
It does, doesn't it? It was surreal being back there last weekend. And, I remember speaking to Pete Dunne backstage, and all of us were sort of standing there pinching ourselves, thinking just how much this brand has grown.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny that you say brand, because my next question is going on to the brand itself, and I really want to talk to you about the job that you do in general. It's one of those jobs that, when you're good at it, people are less inclined to really notice, because at the end of the day, they're there to see the talent that you're introducing. Am I right? But when you're bad at that job, people will notice immediately. And I went to a local show, and the ring announcer was really dreadful, and it was like a huge talking point with my friends, and we never seen that guy again at the next shows at the local show. So do you feel it's like a lot of pressure every time you go out there to make sure you don't make a mistake and balls it up, sort of thing?
Do you know, I actually remember I remember hosting one of David Hayes' comeback fights on Dave, and at the time that was one of the biggest things I've ever done. In excess of 1 million people, maybe 2 million people watching, and that for me was scary. That was a big thing. Yeah. And I remember you're trying to sort of mentally work your way through this, and you're completely right. Our jobs as hosts, as ring announcers, as presenters in this kind of sporting environment, it's not about us. It's about the athletes. It's about the superstars. So our job is just to go out there and make them look better, and to communicate the stories and bring it all to life. Yeah. So really, when you're trying to just manage your own kind of nerves and stuff, it's like, just don't mess up. Yeah. Just don't make a complete hash of this. Obviously you want to do as well as you're good, and you want to be incredible, but really set your bar at, just don't be really, really bad. And hopefully that'll be enough that you can kind of just do your job. Yeah. So that's what I kind of tell myself. You just try and manage your own fears and nerves by being like, do you know what? Just go out there and don't be completely rubbish, or hope you don't be completely rubbish. So that's kind of my mindset going to stuff. Of course, I want to excel and I want to be the best at whatever I do. But really, as you say, just, if people don't notice what you're doing, that's probably a good thing.
Yeah, definitely. It's like a referee as well. If a referee makes a mistake, it's the talking point. But if he doesn't, no one notices.
the one thing I've been a massive wrestling fan for a long time, but the one thing I've learned since working with WWE and NXT UK is just how important the referees are. They are crucial to everything that goes on.
Yeah, definitely. So would you say then, going into that job with David Hay, would you say because I suppose when you go into a job like that, you've got sort of two options, like you say, whether to play it safe, make sure you don't make any mistakes, or is it sort of, I really want to impress here and sort of take the bull by the horns and really go for it?
I mean, of course you want to take the bull by the horns and really go for it, but again, our jobs as hosts and presenters is not to go out there and start juggling and doing backflips and stuff. That's not our job. Our job is to communicate what's going on. Our job is to amp up the fight, to get people excited, to give them information, to build stories. That's what our job is for.
Yeah.
As soon as you start going out there and trying to make a star of yourself, you're trying to steal a limelight from the people who the limelight should really be on.
Yeah.
Your job is to make them look better and make the audience more involved in what's going on by telling them stories.
Yeah, definitely. So what would you say is the most difficult part of your job when you first began?
In terms of the ring announcing?
Yeah.
I mean, it was the ring announcing. I'd never done it before.
Yeah.
I never, Michael, were talking about certain things. It's like, oh, have you ever done any, ring announcing? And the reality was, I'd been in a ring and I'd done interviews, and that was it. But in terms of announcing people, I'd never done that.
Yeah.
I'm by trade, I'm a host. I'm a presenter. When you think of announcers, they. You have to think of people like Bruce Buffer and those kind of people who are big and showy.
Yeah.
And I'd never done that before, so it was just learning to get the tone right,
Yeah.
And that really just, I had some really good people there taking me through things and sort of giving me some tips. But the biggest nerve-wracking thing was doing a job for the very first time.
Yeah. Yeah, understandably, really. I suppose anything you do, a job for the first time, it's sort of nerve-wracking. But then to be put on a stage, knowing that you're on front of thousands of people in the audience and then millions, literally watching at home. As they say, it must be very daunting. So yeah.
And that's the thing. I mean, this was now we do these sort of our NXT tapings, and their tapings, they're not live.
Yeah.
But that we have to remember back. That very first Blackpool show was live.
Yeah.
They entrusted so much in us. Two nights of live action across the WWE network with a whole host of talent that they'd never used before.
Yeah.
I mean, that when you look back now, that's a huge kind of gamble, but it's paid off evidently.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's huge now. Would you say you have to do a lot of research before each show?
For me, it's obviously about obviously knowing everyone's stats. That's the main thing. I need to know what where everyone's from, what. I'm in a really fortunate position in that not only I'm not just welcoming those superstars out into the ring, but in between the matches, at the front of the show and the back of the show, I get to talk to the crowd, interact with the crowd. So you need to know what's going on in the WWE universe. You need to know what the fans have been saying, so you can have those those conversations and interact with the fans.
Yeah, definitely. Is there any?
But a lot of that comes. I'm a huge wrestling fan. I watch all of WWE's output. So you could call it research, or you're a fan. Those things.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely helps. Would you say there's any advice that you would give to someone who's like who would like to do that sort of job, like a master of ceremonies or ring announcer, that sort of thing?
I mean, first of all, go and get the reps in. There's no better way to learn than go and do it.
Yeah.
So look for whatever opportunities you can, and I know when I was starting out, speaking in front of a crowd terrified me.
Yeah.
Absolutely terrified me. So I think getting in front of a crowd and getting used to speaking in front of people definitely makes it easier. But really, if whatever you want to do, if it's being a presenter, a ring announcer, whatever, going out and getting that experience at whatever level you can is really crucial.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we've delayed it long enough. The elephant in the room, NXT UK Takeover, just happened this past weekend as we're recording this. In my eyes, was a huge success. I absolutely loved it. Better than what I even expected it to be. What were your opinions of it, Andy?
I mean, it was mind-blowing. It was it was surreal being back in that venue where we were almost 2 years to the day launching that brand. And when we launched that brand, we were told certain things. They wanted to grow this thing into a UK brand. They wanted to make a weekly TV show.
Yeah.
But 2 years ago, did we think those things were going to happen? We hoped they were going to happen. And of course, it took a while for those things to materialize. And the weekly show only really launched, I think it was in October. We got our first episodes aired, but it's been supercharged. And then to be there and to have what many people are calling the hottest brand in wrestling at the moment, doing their first takeover was incredible. And the fans are really what make that show.
Yeah, that was
people
insane.
People are tuning in from around the world, and not only are they talking about the NXT UK superstars, but they're talking about the fans. I mean, the chants that you guys come up with, the Zach Gibson chants. I mean, of course, one of the biggest headlines coming out of Takeover was the "Are you watching Vince McMahon" chant?
Yes.
And that's not something that people can script or people can try and drop into a show. That was completely organic, and that was by the fans, and that is why NXT UK is, the fans are such a big part of success.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the reactions that they were given when certain things happened were just insane.
Yeah.
Like you said, the chants were pretty special. It's almost like your job to sort of hype the fans up before either went really successfully or wasn't even really needed, because they were so buzzing for this takeover.
That's it. I mean, I've really got one of the best jobs going. That I get to go out there, I get to interact and talk to all the fans in that room, and there's every show we've done, every NXT UK taping we've done, and particularly this past weekend, because it was something so special, the fans were just on fire from start to finish, and that takes a lot of energy.
Yeah.
People, I look, the energy in that room was just incredible from start to finish.
Yeah. I noticed what you said a little earlier then about when NXT, the first tournament happened, and they were talking about, we want to make this into a weekly show and everything. It's quite surprised me that they actually had those plans back then as well, if it was successful.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the ins and outs of it, but Triple H and all the guys at WWE are incredibly smart, incredibly clever guys, and they were. The one thing we did know that was happening that weekend was that they were going to crown their first ever United Kingdom champion, and if you're doing something of that magnitude in the UK, I'm sure they'd thought further down the line and thought, well, if we're doing this, we want to make a real product, a real brand over here.
Yeah, definitely. And I've listened to a couple of things that Triple H has said post Takeover in a couple of interviews, and one of the things he was sort of saying was about the brand and how we've built this, but he was saying it as we, as in not just the fans, not just the wrestlers, not just ring crew like yourself, but himself as well. He is so invested in this, and it's so great to see that. And it doesn't surprise me that you said that there's been plans for a couple years. It's just nice to know that was the plans, because obviously we didn't know that originally. We are hoping for that, definitely, when we heard of the first UK takeover, the first UK tournament. But knowing that they had plans for this makes sense now, because of how successful it's been and how involved Triple H has been in this. It's almost like his baby for this.
100% it's his baby. I mean, he is, very rarely do you get to build something from the ground up. To see something literally be given birth to and to grow and to flourish. And NXT UK is one of those things. We've seen what's happened with NXT in the United States. So to launch something over here like that, it's not that often you get to do that. And Triple H and all the guys involved, all the guys from the Performance Center, all the writers and producers who have come over here for all the tapings, they all see this as their baby, and they've all said how sort of proud they are of it. Yeah,
definitely. What I loved most, probably about this takeover, was about 6 weeks ago when we had a few rumours of Volta signing for WWE. It never said what brand it was just he signed for WWE. We didn't know where he was going to go, where he would turn up. I said on my podcast, I really hope it is NXT UK, and I really want him to confront Pete Dunne when Pete Dunne retains at TakeOver. Now, I didn't have a magic ball or anything like that. It was just hopefully wishing. Thankfully, that is exactly what happened. I still popped more than I ever thought I would. It was a huge impression on the world and what NXT UK wants to do, because Walter is a huge name and a bit of an iconic moment already in NXT UK's very short lifetime. How did it feel being ringside for that?
It was great. I mean, I think you've completely summed it up. It's for him to debut in such a fashion on such a big show, and to make such a big statement from the off. Laying out Joe Coffey, standing toe to toe with Pete. He's made a statement. He's come into NXT UK and he's made no secret about what he wants to do.
Yeah.
So it's great to have another person for Pete to tangle with.
Yeah, definitely. I'd also, if you could pass on a thank you to Triple H, if it is his idea, that Walter kept the violin entrance, that would be a big thank you for that, because I absolutely love that. It goes so well with his character. He looks unbelievable when he comes out in that jacket with that violin. So sort of intimidating, and stood next to Pete. I mean, Pete Dunne's not a small guy. We all know that.
Pete's not a small guy.
But Walter is different level big, isn't he? It is very, very frightening. So it's almost like, I mean, I love NXT UK already. Once I seen that, I sort of didn't know what to do with myself. I was just so excited, and now I cannot wait for what we get to see next. So
that's great to hear.
That's amazing. We also had one of my favourite main roster guys, Mr. Finn Balor, give us a bit of a surprise entrance for poor old Travis Banks. Were you aware this was going to happen before? Are you given sort of the heads up of this information to prepare for it, or is it a surprise to you as well?
I mean, it's a surprise to me. I'd heard rumblings during the afternoon, but those things are kept pretty under wraps, because they want it to be a surprise for everyone.
Yeah.
They want to risk leaking those things out, so they keep those things pretty much under wraps. But the pop in that room, I mean, it was just incredible when he came out.
Yeah, because like you said, that you had rumblings, but they wanted to keep it secret, because else they wouldn't have got that pop. Because as a fan, I didn't have a clue about it. We've seen, the likes of Charlotte and Finn at the UK Performance Centre, which is another amazing thing, by the way, that's happened. We've seen them there, but never did we imagine that we'd actually see Finn Balor come out and have a match at TakeOver, as well as fighting against Jordan Devlin, who people who are even more invested know is taught by Finn Balor. So that was sort of a student-teacher match, and it was an incredible match as well. Yeah,
and it's those things where you don't want those things to leak out. You don't want people to find out, not because you're trying to keep a secret, but because you know that when you're sitting at home or when you're sitting there in the Empress Ballroom and you discover what's happening, when you hear Finn Balor's music drop and you hear him come out and confront Jordan, you want everyone to feel that same sense of excitement. And if rumours had started circulating earlier in the day, or if people had dropped hints, you're not going to feel that. You'd be half expecting it or half thinking it was going to happen. So that's why these things, it's good to keep things under wraps, because you want everyone to feel that emotion.
Yeah, definitely. I also seen yourself get unfortunately involved in one of these matches, sat there minding your own business at ringside. I did notice that. Eddie Dennis, I think it was, stealing a chair.
The big man Eddie Dennis. I tell you what, when he wants your chair, you give it to him.
Up, yeah.
And sometimes he doesn't ask. Sometimes he just takes. And I mean, he truly lobbed me across the length of that entire ring. He is a big, strong boy.
Yeah, definitely. What do you think about the obviously quite famous chant for TakeOver? Are you watching Vince McMahon? You touched on it earlier. What do you think about it in general? Do you think it will have a big effect going forward?
What, that chant, or just people realising that this is a brand to watch?
Both, really, because like you said, it's made like quite a lot of news. Vince McMahon even tweeted out himself, which is quite a big thing, because he's not exactly active on social media all the time. So for him to say that and to notice it is a huge thing. And people who maybe didn't get to check out TakeOver, NXT TakeOver, and maybe who aren't big fans of it, well, or maybe just haven't watched it, because I think if you watch it, you'd be a fan. But maybe just haven't checked it out yet. They're seeing that and thinking, oh, hold on, what am I missing here?
Yeah, I mean, we're doing this for the fans.
Yeah.
You know, if no one watches this, there's no point doing it. And people are tuning in. Fans seem to be enjoying, you know, the NXT UK product. And, you know, as I said earlier, that chant was so organic. That was the fans just going, hey, look, Vince, look at what we can do here in the UK. And Vince responded. You know, Vince is watching. Vince is seeing this. And Vince is, you know, hearing that the fans are liking what they see, which is great, you know, because, again, this is entertainment, and entertainment is made to be watched and enjoyed, and people are evidently watching and enjoying.
Yeah, 100%. Do you have a favourite match or moment from the Takeover?
I mean, the whole thing, top to tail, was incredible. I mean, the top of the show, Moustache Mountain coming out, those guys just get an incredible pop. And Trent.
Great way to start off the show.
Yeah, and I remember Trent coming out, and I'm making the announcement, and Trent is literally eyeballing me from the stage, just pumping me up. And you can't help but get involved in it. Like, he's literally like, come on, give me more. And, you know, I'm just going nuts, announcing those guys into the ring. So that was quite a cool moment. But again, just top to bottom, there wasn't a dull moment. There wasn't a weak moment in that entire 2.5 hours. So to pick out one moment, I don't know if I could. Yeah. The whole thing as an experience was just incredible to play a small part of.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Trent Seven, because he's sort of been a staple of English wrestling for quite a while now, or Brit wrestling as a lot of people call it. And for him, you know, he's been around the block. For him now, in his late 30s, coming to the point where he is now seeing a huge boom in Brit wrestling popularity, and you know, we had an NXT UK takeover for a UK brand. I mean, if you said that to Trent 7 5 years ago, he'd probably call you stupid. You know, do you ever speak to these guys and know what it means to them, the people who have been around the block for a while and know what wrestling was like in Britain sort of 10 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, look, all of these guys are relishing this opportunity. You know, Trent, everyone. You know, most of these guys have been on the circuit for in excess of a decade. Yeah. You know, a lot of these guys have been on there for running around for 15 years plus. They know what it's like for there to be no industry here in the UK. They know what it's like to only have a handful of shows to go to. They know what it's like to not be able to make a living doing what they love doing. And, you know, to look to a WWE and not really see any direct route there. And now, in the past 24 months, all of this has come about. Like, if you're a British wrestler now, if you're in the UK industry, there is now a laid out path for you.
Yeah.
You know, there's a performance centre opened in the UK. I mean, that's incredible. That's an incredible opportunity for everyone. Yeah, as I say, all these guys who've been grafted for a decade plus to now be in a position where they can make a living from this. Yeah. They can work for the biggest wrestling company in the world, a company that no doubt they've looked at and dreamt about working for. And now they're working for that company, and they're being able to pay the bills and grow themselves. All of them, I think, are pinching themselves, being like, this is an absolute dream come true.
Yeah, I mean, I've actually spoke to a couple of the wrestlers at different shows. I went to a show just before Christmas, Fight Forever Wrestling, and Travis Banks and Flash Morgan Webster was there, and I spoke to them. I sort of said, you know, how are you enjoying the NXT? And they are all loving it, because, like you said, not only is it giving them a higher platform where more people can see how talented they are and what they can do, but like you said, it's the element of support for them. You know, the paying the bills easier, and where before, where times are a lot harder, they'd have to have a full-time job, still be able to train, and then go to wrestling shows as well, and put on the shows that they do. So for them, it's a huge opportunity for them. I'm so grateful that NXT UK has happened for people like them, and for all the future talent as well. So that's a huge bonus. And plus, it's more wrestling for us to watch as well, which, you know,
absolutely,
that's great. Let's talk about the NXT UK in general now, not just the Takeover. I was lucky enough that you came to my hometown in Plymouth.
Beautiful Plymouth.
Oh, I'm glad you said that. I really like you, Andy. Great guest. Even luckier, we got to see Shawn Michaels and Triple H and the unveiling of those gorgeous tag team titles. Yeah. How are you finding these weekends sort of touring the UK?
I mean, it's crazy. Genuinely, the atmosphere backstage with the NXT locker room it is honestly like a family. It's everyone just supports each other. Everyone's egging each other on. So these weekends when we all come together, it's great for everyone to hang out. And it's a bit surreal because, as I said earlier, Shawn Michaels, an absolute hero of mine, to, be spending the weekend in Plymouth and, to look across and see Shawn Michaels standing there, giving people advice, seeing him working, seeing him, dishing out his incredible words of wisdom it's surreal. Yeah. Again, I always look back. As I look back on things I do, sometimes it's easy to sort of get lost in the moment and not really think about what you're achieving and so forth. But sometimes you have to stop, and I think, what would my 12-year-old self think about what I'm doing in this moment? Because I think when you're a kid, you kind of look at things a bit more clearer. Yeah. And my 12-year-old self would be looking at me having a conversation with Shawn Michaels and being like, "What the hell is going on?" It would just be blowing his brains. It blows my brains even now. These weekends we have taping these shows are, they're fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that Shawn Michaels chucked the Sweet Chin Music in my hometown of Plymouth is... Yeah. I can't believe it still to this day. It feels like it was a dream, really, to have seen that. And a lot of people were very jealous once they heard about it.
I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I mean, again, I'm sitting there. Shawn Michaels, an absolute hero of mine, and he's stepping into that ring. He's doing that. You're getting those super special moments that all of the talent that are involved in this. In 20, 30 years' time, they're going to stop and look back on their careers, and there are those moments they're going to look at and be like, "Oh my word, that actually happened." Yeah. And no doubt that Shawn Michaels moment with him and the British Strong Style boys just sitting there pulling the poses, it's just incredible.
That was brilliant. I have a Patreon member, the lovely Courtney, who wants to know what your favourite part of the UK shows are.
In what sense? What favourite part?
So when you're doing the shows, what's your favourite part of the whole weekend that happens?
For me, I love going out there and talking to the audience. For me, I get to announce the matches and so forth, but it's the little bits in between which are great. I get to go and talk to the crowd. I get to amp you guys up. All those things are great. When you can feel the energy from the crowd, you can feel how hyped everyone is. You can feel how excited everyone is. That for me is incredible because I'm feeling the exact same way. I'm a fan. I'm sitting there with one of the best seats in the house, and when everyone comes together and just starts going nuts, that for me is just, it's incredible.
Yeah, until there is an Eddie Dennis match where you are no longer allowed your seat.
Exactly. Yeah. I didn't know what to do. He stole my seat, and then I was like, "I'm not."
Kneel.
Like, well, yeah. What am I doing? Because I don't want to stand. Because I'm going to block people's views. I do a little half squat on the barricade to keep out of people as well. And I was like, "Eddie, can I have my?" No. Okay, I'll let you finish the match. Yeah, you carry on hitting Dave Mastiff with my chair.
Yeah. I've also got another question, quite related to another wrestler. When you have a card with Zach Gibson on it, knowing that he takes the mic, introduces himself and James Drake if he's there, do you feel robbed of the opportunity of getting to introduce him, or is it an ideal less to remember situation?
Do you know what? He's not actually cut me off yet. He's actually let me... No, he's not. I think he's cut off Greg Hamilton in the past, and he's done some stuff with the SmackDown guys. Yeah. But for me, he's always let me get him into the ring thus far. I'm sure that may well change as things go along. But no, Zach has very kindly thus far let me welcome him to the ring.
Are you a Liverpool fan, Andy? Is that something, maybe the reason why?
Maybe, yeah, maybe. Or maybe he's just got something planned to really upstage me at some point in the future, and he's letting it build towards that. Who knows? Yeah. Who knows with Mr. Gibson? He's always got something he's plotting and planning.
He is awesome. I absolutely love Zach Gibson. How great of a feeling is it when the crowd repeat "One Fall" as loud as they can after you say it? Because I notice when I'm watching you do it, you smile every time.
Oh, it's amazing because you know when they do that, they're just hyped for the match. It's all these feelings. Again, my background is hosting TV shows, so it's normally me and a camera. And so these moments with NXT UK and WWE, and when I'm standing in that ring, you're getting an instant reaction from the crowd, and when they react to something like that, you can't describe that feling.
No, I can imagine. Now, before a show starts up, is also your job to sort of get the crowd rallied up, like you said, before the cameras sort of go live. Do you find it a difficult thing to do at all? Or is that sort of the easiest thing, really?
Man, it's because the crowds are so hyped for these shows, it's not the most difficult job in the world. You know, people are. This is the thing about this brand. The fans are so passionate. They're so good that they come there. They're looking to have a good time. You know, they're looking to get pumped and amped. So, you know, my job is just to press the go button. You know, they're all ready. They're primed. They're ready to go. All I've got to do is, you know, is just say a word. And they want to have fun, which is great. Which is again why the atmosphere around these shows is so unique.
Yeah, I think as well. I've got a lot of like American listeners and people on Twitter I speak to are American, and they can't believe the English crowds and how amazing the English crowds are. And I always tell them the same thing, which I'm going to say to you now. Is probably the reason why you probably understand it as well. To be honest, being from this country, but we never had things like this when we were growing up and well forever. We never had it. You know, we had a pay-per-view in SummerSlam '92. I was born in '92, so you know I couldn't be there, unfortunately. But
you were preoccupied.
Yeah, I was preoccupied, like being born.
Given birth to. Yeah.
But, you know, and we were starved of this, but we've seen it all before. So it's very strange for us having this feeling now that we get this, and I think that's the reason why we're so pumped and so amped for it.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we want this, but also, you know, you can't overlook the stuff that the other organisations over here, like Progress, have done in terms of cultivating, you know, the atmosphere and cultivating these fans over here. You know, you go to those shows and everyone's just pumped, everyone's chanting, and you know, the foundations that have been laid have been incredible. You know, and NXT UK is just an extension of that.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, then, quick few questions because I know we're sort of running out of time here. Who do you think will win out of Pete Dunne and Walter, in your opinion?
Oh, that's a tough. I mean, I don't know if. I mean, those guys have faced off before. I know on outside of NXT UK, but if we're looking within NXT UK, Pete Dunne hasn't faced anyone like Walter. Walter is a whole different beast. He brings a whole new set of challenges. That's going to be an interesting one. I mean, you can never bet against Pete Dunne. He's done so much in this company already. You know, he's a standout performer who raises his game each and every time. But man, Walter he is just a beast. So, I mean, never bet against Pete Dunne. But right now, looking at roster, if anyone can do it, Walter might be the man. Yeah,
definitely. I think even people who are unaware of Walter can have realised that Pete Dunne is in trouble here. I think that's definitely the situation.
It's not going to be easy work for Pete, that's for sure.
No. Do you have a favourite announcer from the past, maybe a Howard Finkel or a Tony Chimmel?
Wow. I mean, the Fink is the iconic one, isn't he?
Yeah.
Fink is the one that, when you think of classic WWE announcers, the Fink is the one that comes to mind. But if you look down the roster at the moment, you look at who's there. You've got the likes of Greg Hamilton, Mike Rome, Dasher, Kayla. I mean, the whole roster of those guys are fantastic, and I've got to say that all those guys have been so supportive and offered me so much advice. And when I see those guys when they come over here for the UK tours, they've all been amazing. So I think from the past you got to go Fink, but at the moment there's a real classic crop of people that I get to look up to.
Yeah, definitely. My final question now. Vince wants you to be a wrestler. Who do you pick as your opponent?
That's a great question. I mean, after the weekend, part of me wants Eddie Dennis. Yeah. but let's be honest. I mean, do you know what? Of course, you want to shoot for the top. So Pete Dunne would be great. But also, all the guys on the roster are incredible. But I look at Tyler Bate, and I don't know how he does what he does.
No.
I mean, the guy is so young.
That
so
neck
talented.
thing is just weird. I can't grasp
I look at and I go, I'm sitting there, I'm watching these things up close. I don't know how gravity allows him to do some of the things he does. So, do you know what? I'd probably go Tyler Bate.
That's a great answer. I know you said about Pete Dunne there. I've spoken to people in the past as well who were in their very first few matches in their career, and they said Pete Dunne made them look like they had been wrestling for 15 years. He's just that good.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that. I think the same with all those guys. They're so good at... I mean, luckily they get to work with some great people in NXT UK, but I'm sure you could put them in there with a paper bag and they're going to make that paper bag look like Shawn Michaels.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Andy, thank you very much for joining me. This has been absolutely incredible and an absolute pleasure to speak to you.
Luke, thank you so much for having me on, mate. It's been a real pleasure.
Definitely. Where is NXT UK coming in the future that you are allowed to announce in the future so people can reach a show?
We are going to be at Coventry, in Coventry on February 22nd and 23rd. So, if you haven't got tickets yet, if you've never been to an NXT UK show, honestly, I urge you to come down. That atmosphere is like nothing you've ever seen before. And, anyone who's caught it on the WWE Network Wednesday night at 8 o'clock will know that the action inside that ring is world class.
Yeah, definitely. What's your social media, Andy? Where can people find you?
You can find me on I'm Aligned on Twitter and Instagram. I'm Andy Shep across both of them. My website's Andy Shep. So Andy Shep is where you can find me on the old socials.
Amazing. Andy, thank you very much for joining me today. Keep smashing it with NXT UK. I'm so excited to see what you have in store for the brand in the future. And look forward to seeing you in my hometown in Plymouth again in the near future as well.
Me too, my man. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you very much, Andy. Bye-bye.
This is Flip Gordon, and you need to subscribe to Omega Luke Podcast.
There we have it, guys. That indeed was Andy Shepherd, NXT UK ring announcer. What an amazing guest, by the way. He is absolutely fucking awesome. Really enjoyed having him on, and hopefully you guys really enjoyed the Takeover and enjoyed what Andy had to say about the Takeover. As you can see, he's really enthusiastic about it, which I think is why the brand is as good as what it actually is. And to be honest, I cannot wait for when we next see NXT UK live on our TVs. Well, not live, but you know what I mean. Through the WWE Network and see what the repercussions of Volta and Pete Dunne are going to be. But thank you everyone for listening to this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Like I say, let me know on Twitter or in the YouTube comments if you're watching through YouTube what you thought of what Andy had to say. And if you're enjoying having these very unique guests that I'm having on recently. Just like last week, obviously, I had Jazz on, the current NWA Women's Champion. And the week before, of course, how could anyone forget the incredible Darby Allin episode? If you haven't seen them yet, you may want to go check them out. They are very, very good. Of course, we are just a few days away now from the very final episode and the very final match of the Fantasy Booking League. I will finally have my Fantasy Booking champion. Who will it be? We will find out very, very soon. But if you want to challenge the title holder, like I said, on an episode of a Fantasy Booking match, then you need to DM me, you need to contact me in the comment section or on Twitter, and we can arrange for you to have a startup match to see how you get along before you go into a contenders match. So we shall see how that goes. But thank you everyone for listening. Make sure you all subscribe. Drop a like on this video if you're watching on YouTube as well. 5-star rating review if it's iTunes or any other podcast platforms. That would be amazing. But goodbye everyone and good night. Bang.
Finally! Are you ready?
But that's not me. I'm the Switchblade, baby.
You, and especially you. Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. Goodbye. Write it down. You like writing things down.
I am your favourite podcaster's favourite podcast. I am
Omega. The Omega Luke Wrestling Podcast.